last couple weeks, but we're going to begin the board meeting for June 13th, 2022, 2023, as we typically do, and that's with a prayer and pledge. And providing our prayer tonight is Adam Harris. He's the associate pastor of God-Wide Church. Adam, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate what your church does for our community, and want you to go ahead and lead us in prayer.
Yeah, honored to be here. Let's pray. Well, God, I thank you for this community. I thank you for Hendersonville and the people who just lead here and serve. And I pray that tonight is an effective meeting. God, you would just guide it. And God, that we would just take on that posture of service. And whatever we do, whatever talents we have, whatever wirings we have, whatever positions we have, it would just be, how can we serve our community better? And God, we pray for unity and just a spirit of cooperation as different people pull the resources together and make this area a better place, 1% better every day. And we just pray for your love, your peace, your presence, and all that we do. And that God, that we would grow in that, and we would just see each other the way you see us. And we thank you for just this time and opportunity. And in Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Again, that's Pastor Adam Harris. He's the associate pastor at God-Wide Church. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Please join me in the pledge.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Annette, will you go ahead and call the roll for us, please?
Bergdorf.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Dixon.
Here.
Garden. Garza.
Here.
Goodwin.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Sassy.
Here.
Skidmore.
Here.
Waters.
Here.
Clary.
Here. 12. So we've got 12 of the 13 of us. Let me adjust our microphones here real quickly. Okay. I need to entertain a motion to accept our agenda. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Goodwin. One thing I need to bring attention to is item 5. That does not follow our 2-week rule. It was just considered tonight in the general committee, but due to the timeliness of it and some deadlines coming up, we need to consider that tonight here. Jess, I need to ask you a favor. I forgot to get together the BZA appointment for, I think it's on Erica's desk. So this isn't for consideration tonight. This is just to be part of your packet tonight. We wouldn't consider it until for 2 weeks. It's Andrea Bessling. We won't consider it tonight, like I said, but I'd like for it to be considered part of the agenda. So just like the other ones that are to be considered 2 weeks from now, it will be in this packet. So I'm going to entertain a motion that we add Andrea Bessling to the BZA consideration for 2 weeks, but we need to get that agenda here, and I hope you all will help me out with that. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Garza. What we'll do is we'll get that information out to you. If Jesse's not able to locate it, honestly, I just forgot to get it from Erica today. If Jesse's unable to locate it, we will get it out to you tomorrow morning, so you will have it for as much of the 2 weeks as possible. And we have a person that is asked to not be reappointed to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and so we need to fill that position as soon as possible because that person's term ends at the end of June. So Andrea Bessling. So we need to take a vote on that amendment. Any other discussion on that amendment? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. I appreciate that. Any other discussion or suggested changes to our agenda? All those in favor of approving the agenda as it has just been amended, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now under presentations, which we have none, public hearings we have none. I'm going to entertain a motion that we approve the minutes from May 23rd, 2023. We have a motion from Alderman Sassy, a second from Alderman Waters. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes from May 23rd, 2023 as they were provided to you in your packet, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Citizen comments. We have one person signed up. Let me read the guidelines here. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address. Public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes per person, which time is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are to be directed to the presiding officer, not to the alderman, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with differing views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for public office shall not be allowed. We have Les Marks of Winding Way.
I come up, Mayor?
Right there. There you go.
Let's see if you can read this. This is something I donated about 22 years ago. Snake Island.
Right now, nobody can hear you. Okay. So if you're at the microphone, people can hear
That
you.
was at Snake Island before there was anything on that island.
Winding Way. Les Marks. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, are you able to read that for me?
I'm not going to read it. If you want to read it, you can.
Oh, well, I'll read it. Okay, about 20 years ago, I had a flagpole business, and I donated several flagpoles to this city. And Dave Lamarbury had given me this letter. I went ahead and framed it. I had donated a flagpole to the island, which we used to call Snake Island. I think it's called Friendship Island now. I'm not sure. But the Parks Department helped me take it over there in a little John boat. I set it up. Wasn't much happening over there on that island before it became Friendship Island. Just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for the donation of the flagpole on the island at Memorial Park. It looks great. And you were exactly right when you said we needed a flagpole on the island. I really appreciate the local businessmen stepping up and assisting the community. In this day and time, it's refreshing to know that there are still people out there that really care about the city they live in. Thanks again, and please feel free to call me if I can be of any assistance. And Dave was a parks director. The mayor was Jim Fuqua. And then I think a couple of people are still here with the city that's on this paper here. Okay, what I have to say tonight is not pretty. But like I told my daughter, sometimes pretty on the outside, ugly on the inside. Good evening, Mayor, Aldermen, City of Hendersonville. I'm not a judgmental person. I want to wish everyone a happy Pride Month and Juneteenth. My name's Les Marks. Live at 112 Winding Way. I've lived there for 42 years, and I've been in the medical field for over 40 years. I'm retired now. And if y'all excuse me a little bit, I have long COVID and have a little trouble sometimes speaking. With what I'm fixing to say, I prayed over this and asked Jesus why people are filled with hate. And because we live in Music City, some of the things I'll say will be coming from my playlist. And he said, only God knows. So I spoke with Alderman Robertson a few months ago about some issues here in Hendersonville, which was in the parking lot of Ryan's Restaurant.
Mr. Marks, you have 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
You have 1 minute left.
Oh, 1 minute. Okay, well, I'll move on down to the in our city, in our ward, we have hate crime and elder abuse in Ward 6. I know how it feels to be Medgar Evans in the 60s, but I won't back down, and I'll fight for my freedom and my rights that have been taken away. And there's some city people here that know what's going on. There's corruption in this city of Hendersonville, and I hope somebody straightens it out. And I've had enough, and I plan on not taking any more of it. I guess I'll take legal action with that. And I just want people to leave this long-haired country boy alone. I don't bother nobody. I'm retired. I do what retired people do. And it's kind of a shame that I can't walk my dog around the block because I have a body cam I have to wear now because we've almost gotten hit by vehicles, I guess, 4 times.
Mr. Marks,
I have
your time is
witnesses
up.
for this.
Mr. Marks, thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you. I have videos and I have pictures of the abuse.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. We do not have a consent agenda tonight. The next item we have are ordinances and resolutions. The first item we have is second and final reading, ordinance 2023-10. This is an ordinance to amend Title 3, Chapter 3, Section 3-302 to establish reasonable court cost. Alderman Goodwin.
Was on the agenda last meeting, and I'd appreciate your voting for this
Okay,
tonight.
we have a motion from Alderman Goodwin
Second.
and a second from Alderman Collins. Go ahead, Alderman Goodwin.
I just appreciate your vote to get the court cost raise.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Alderman Goodwin. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I was reading staff reports, and I was wondering what the fiscal impact might be with this increase in court costs, but it says unknown at this time. Do we have any kind of idea how much more revenue would be generated with the increase?
Alderman Goodwin wants to answer that one. Go ahead.
Roughly $150,000.
Thank you very much.
Anything else, Alderman Peterson?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving second and final reading of ordinance 2023-10, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we have first reading of ordinance 2023-13. This is an ordinance repealing and replacing the hotel privilege tax in the city of Hendersonville, Tennessee. Alderman Robertson. We have a motion from Alderman Robertson and a second from Alderman Waters. Alderman Robertson, any comments?
I don't believe so. I appreciate the staff putting out their analysis of this. This would merely raise the hotel motel tax from the current 2.75 to 4%, which is allowed by state law. That's the maximum allowed. The financial impact is estimated around $160,000. Actually, it's really just a drop in the bucket to what we need, but it's a start. So I would urge my colleagues to support this on the first reading. Thank you.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Dixon.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that the Finance Committee voted unanimously for this in our last meeting.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Thank you, Alderman Dixon. Alderman Sassy.
Yeah, I just had a question on Section 3. All revenues from the privilege tax shall be operated as a special revenue fund. Would that be the, this is very loud.
It is. Hold on a second. So I'm looking at Jason right now. Do we need to do something different? Okay.
I'll just whisper then.
That might work.
Maybe that'll work.
We're getting an echo.
Will those at
down
home
here.
hear me?
Okay.
That's not saying much, Jim.
I think we're good. Go ahead.
All right. So that will be the, help me out here. What would be the special fund that would be applied to?
It's the tourism and tourism fund, correct, Mr. Eckenroth?
Great.
So all the money that is collected will go into that, and it has to go by state law into tourist-related expenses, which pretty basically is our parks
That's all I
department.
had, thank you.
Okay. Appreciate Alderman Sassy. Thank you, Alderman Robertson. Any other discussion? All those in favor of first reading of ordinance 2023-13, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we're on first reading of ordinance 2023-12. This is an ordinance imposing a fee in the amount of $251 for the purpose of funding the universal system of domestic garbage collection and disposal and authorizing its billing on the city's property tax notice. I so move. Second from Alderman Bergdorf. Let me explain a little bit why this came back. Is because Robert's Rules of Order allows us to renew a motion at a meeting that is subsequent to the motion where something was denied. If we want to bring up something that was denied at the same meeting or approved at the same meeting, then we would rescind a previous decision. So we can renew something if the chairman feels like there is reason to believe that the vote will be different. One of the people who voted against this 2 weeks ago, I don't think it's any secret, Terry Goodwin, told me that she would like to have it brought back with the feeling that she would vote differently. So that's why I allowed it to come back. Typically, we don't consider decisions multiple times. But with the feeling that it was going to be different, and with Robert's Rules of Order allowing us to do that, it made sense to bring it back. So having said that, probably the best thing for us to do right now is ask Jesse Eckenroth to speak a little bit. And he and Tamara have a presentation to show us a little bit about this. Because of some of the conversations we had at Finance Committee and at the workshop, some data that they were asked to pull up that help us a lot, and that we didn't really have 2 weeks ago. But like I said at the workshop, the conversations were very helpful as far as what some people needed and what some people were really looking for. So go ahead. Oh, I got to do that. Sorry, Jesse. There we go.
Thank you, Mayor Clary. I think got some backfeed here on the mic. We're not ready for this, Jason. You can just keep that down. I think probably the most substantial item that we've discussed over the last couple weeks is the ability for the tax relief program to work towards the trash fee. So as it stands right now, if you apply for a tax freeze or tax relief through the state, that can apply for your universal garbage collection fee. So if there's someone in the city who has a fee for property taxes and a fee for trash, the city's municipal code allows for a 50% reduction in the trash fee if they meet the requirements, the income requirements that the state sets for that. So that was a major component we hadn't considered before. As it stands right now, the municipal code recognizes a 50% relief. We don't know that there's any limit or any ceiling to increasing that amount, but as it stands right now in the municipal code, there is a provision to reduce that by 50% for folks who qualify.
So Jesse, what you're saying is if we set this fee at $251, some folks, a couple hundred folks that go through the tax relief program, their trash fee would be half of that.
That's correct.
Okay. And what you're also saying, though, is that we could increase that discount, and maybe that's a question for Lance. We could increase that discount because it is city code. We could decide to do that now, or we could decide to do it another time. So instead of 50%, maybe they only pay 25% or less than that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct, yeah. We haven't found anything to the contrary that says that BOMA doesn't have the authority to regulate the percentage of relief we give on that special assessment.
Okay, appreciate that. So when this was first proposed and during all the workshops that we had, $251 was the number that we had there. But I am going to ask that we amend that to $156. I'm going to ask Jesse to explain where we got that number. So I'm going to make a motion that we amend that figure instead of $251 being the trash fee for every resident, that we reduce that to $156. Oh, yeah, certainly. I just need a second on this. Okay, we have a second from Alderman Mark Bergdorf. Okay, so Alderman Waters, go ahead.
No, I just want you to explain to me what you're saying, the 151.
Okay.
Explain it to me.
Okay. So if we have a trash fee on houses, which is what we're discussing right now, and the person who lives in that house, they participate in the state tax freeze or tax relief, they can get their trash fee reduced by 50%.
let me interject something.
Okay.
What, are you saying certain people can file for property tax relief?
And we already have that.
Do you know you know the requirements? I've tried it. You know the requirements to get that?
I know they're age and income-based. I don't know exactly what they are.
I know exactly.
Okay.
And none of us on this board can qualify for that if we wanted to today.
Okay.
Now, I bet half of these people couldn't either. It's strict. So I don't agree with what you're saying about a property tax relief.
Okay.
Because I couldn't get it. And you know my wife's condition, and we couldn't get it, so go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I appreciate that, and that's part of the reason, one of the reasons that I'm volunteering to reduce the fee from $251 to $156. For everybody.
For everybody.
And then people with the tax relief would get it further reduced. So we're talking about $156 for everybody at this point. And our city attorney needs to say something.
Clarify a little bit about the qualifications. You're correct. It's 65 and the income is 31,000. But it's also available to disabled veterans and disabled individuals.
Well, I don't think this is a place for you and I to discuss that as a veteran, because that was my goal. And you're a veteran too, so you said 30,000?
That's the income threshold to qualify for elderly, but there's also qualifications for disabled and disabled veterans.
I'll agree to disagree with you, but it's okay.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Alderman Waters, thank you. Jesse, we explained where the 156 came from.
Yeah, so as Mayor Clary and I were discussing, kind of some of what we've heard BOMA talk about is some that a couple of things have come up. One is that there's a feeling, a sentiment that some of that cost should be shared across businesses. So what we took is the fee just for our contract vendor right now is Waste Pro. Just their fee to come to residential homes. So we don't include brush, limb, leaf. We don't include the weight, the tipping fees. It's just the contract amount that we're charged by Waste Pro to come to residential homes. So we took that amount and we applied it over the homes that we service. And so when you divide those two, the number comes up 156. So that's how that rate was calculated. It was just the contract portion of residential trash pickup, which there is more than just the vendor picking the trash up, snubbing fees and limb collection and all those things. So 156 is based just on the contract that we have right now with our vendor Waste Pro. So Jason, if you would put that slide up on the screen now, can you make that any larger on the screen, Jason? You may be able to see it on your screens in front of you. So if you go to the top of it, this is a breakdown. We start at 200,000 for the appraised home value and go down to 800,000, which is going to be the bulk of everyone in the city. And on the third column, there's an existing rate. That's our existing tax rate at 0.9187. The alternate option would be a lower tax rate, so the tax rate would be reduced to 0.8344, and then that trash fee of 156. So under that alternate option, you can just go across that row and see whatever your home's appraised value is, what your tax rate with that alternate option would be. And then as you go one column further where it says difference existing to alternate, that gives you the difference between what you would pay at the current tax rate and the new tax rate and the trash fee. And then if you go one column over, that's the tax relief at 50%. So if you are going to do the alternate option and you apply for tax relief, like you can see in the top right-hand column, the difference is $35.85. And then as you go down, that number actually gets negative. If you would scroll up, Jason, so we can see the appraised commercial value, that alternate option for commercial across the board is a savings because the tax rate is reduced under this proposal. So you can see, again, from 200,000, we went all the way down to 10 million, and the difference is highlighted. And so that would be a reduction in those commercial and their commercial property tax on an annual basis. So that just kind of explains, it shows you the break-even point. This made the break-even point higher as a dollar percentage if you don't have the tax relief under residential, if you scroll back up, Jason, but it made the overall impact much lower because that fee is now set at $156 rather than $251.
Alderman Waters, do you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm looking at the third one down. If I go over to the right, mine's going to increase what, 630? That's a percentage?
So if you're under the $400,000 appraised home value, your current tax rate at 0.9187 is 919. It would go to 990. So it'd be a difference of $71.70.
It'll go up that much?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Unless you are eligible for the tax relief.
I'm not. Go down to the commercial. Same thing, 400,000. And they're getting a relief of $134, is that right?
It would reduce because the property tax rate is reducing. So an overall property tax rate reduction. Commercial businesses don't get residential trash service. Waste Pro doesn't service them. Our vendor doesn't service them. So under this proposal, they're not charged that fee for the service because they don't receive it. So they get the lower tax rate like the residential, but the residential then has the tax or the trash fee tacked onto it. Commercial does not.
I think it's also.
I understand. I don't understand what all the wording that you're saying. I'm just looking at that. They're going to get this is going to lower and mine's going to go up.
Yes, it's going to lower everyone's.
That's all I'm concerned about, Jesse.
It's going to lower everyone's property tax rate.
Everybody?
Everyone's
It could
property
be-
tax rate. But if you're a residence, then you're going to have a trash fee on your property tax notice in addition to your property tax. Just like you have stormwater fee now, that's in addition to property tax. Now there would be a trash fee. Similar to how it was from 2018 and prior, there was a trash fee and a property tax.
Alderman Waters, I think
Line
you asked a
item.
question, didn't get quite answered. Is that also, if you look at what a $400,000 home is going to pay, they're going to pay $990. A $400,000 business is going to pay $1,335. They're going to pay about $400 more, even though they're not getting trash service.
Yeah, but they're getting a relief at $134, aren't they?
They are, but they're still paying significantly more than that resident valued at the same amount.
Well, I can't feel sorry for them. I'm worried about Southburn Drive. They're going to get a relief, and I'm going to have to pay more. That's right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Waters. Alderman Robertson.
Under the present system, Mr. Eckenroth, businesses are helping to subsidize residential trash service, correct?
Yes, sir.
Under the two scenarios, the way we have it now, are one of these alternatives. What is the greater contribution by the commercial and businesses toward garbage service?
The higher the tax rate, the greater the contribution.
So the existing rate structure that we have, rate design, businesses subsidize residential garbage service to a larger degree, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Scroll down to the $10 million commercial. I should know this. Is the hospital the only one that is in that category in the city? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't have a list.
Does any staff know if we have any commercial account that's $10 million appraised value? Okay. I have struggled with this because I do see great advantage in transparency. I think it's good for citizens to have itemization when that is possible. I think that itemization, transparency may, in some degree, produce better conservation. And if a citizen knows the more garbage I take, it may prompt them to try recycling. So while I like the proposal from the perspective of transparency, I have wrestled with this. I have discussed it with my most trusted advisor, my wife, and I'm having trouble with the equity equation here. Is it fair to all concerned? To quote a Rotary slogan. So I have tried two different approaches to tackle that. First, I tried with a universal trash tax that would tax everyone, businesses, commercial, apartments, residents, with a tax. We were advised by General Counsel that that's not allowed by state law. So then I went back to ask the staff about an assessment. Could we just assess businesses at this rate? And it's de minimis. It's minuscule, the impact. So like I say, I like the transparency. Now, I'm not saying, if I don't support this proposal tonight, Mayor, I'm not saying that I won't support it next year, because I know that storm clouds are gathering in the trash collection service. Being on the Public Works Committee, we know what we know, and trash service in this city is going to go up, I believe, astronomical. So I may support it next year, but at this point, because of my equity concerns, that lower income people will be paying more than people that own more expensive homes, I cannot support this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Robertson. Alderman Robertson, one of the things that came up at the workshop was there was no real magic number.
Yeah.
Would you feel better about $100? That addresses some of your equity concerns, because it is going to shift more of the responsibility to businesses, because we're going to have to raise the property tax up a little bit more for businesses. Does that get you feeling better?
Well, can you put this in the equation? Put $100 in the equation?
So that's part of the reason I asked Tamara to be here with her laptop hooked up to the screen.
We did have a 100 option. We're going to look on our files right now. Maybe you give us a couple minutes and you guys can continue discussing, and we can see if we can pull it up. So what happens, though, with the $100, every time you lower the amount of the trash fee, the break even actually shifts down, but the overall impact is much less. And then if you are able to do a tax where you have a 50% reduction as well on a tax relief, we won't be able to show that right now, but we could apply that as well, maybe at round 2.
So the reason I'm asking this now is because if we vote this down, we're immediately going to start talking about the budget, and we're going to have to increase the property tax rate in the budget immediately to compensate for the lost revenue in this. So I want us to consider all options before we vote on this and move on to the budget. So that's why I'm throwing that out there. Alderman Waters, did you want to talk about something else? Go ahead.
A couple of questions, Mayor. This is second reading, right?
No, this is first reading.
We deferred last
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, we had a motion to defer it last meeting.
Is it a problem for me to ask the sponsor who wanted to bring it back why she changed her mind? Is that legal?
Sure, feel free. She doesn't have to answer you.
Well, why do you want to bring it back, ma'am?
The reason that I wanted to bring it back is I didn't think it was fair for businesses to be paying a trash fee when they don't get the service. I feel like the trash fee is a service like having your yard mowed. I don't feel like I feel like that's something a homeowner should contribute to.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Alderman Dixon, y'all talked about $100 in Finance Committee, is that correct?
It was brought to us as an option,
Okay,
but we did not necessarily vote on that.
okay.
I will say, while you've called on me, and we've got some time while Tamara's looking for that, Alderman Roberson talked about the inequity of it and the transparency. And yes, the transparency is why I like it as well. But I also, the way that we are using property tax to fund our trash today is that someone with $1 million home pays more for their trash pickup than someone with a $100,000 home, right? So there's an inequity there as well. So I like the idea of a flat fee, and I like the idea that if we go to 156, is what you've proposed, and that pays just for pickup, so we're not funding our entire expenditures for trash. We're not funding in that fund our tipping fees and other pickup. So I will support this, just want folks to know that.
Thank you, Alderman Dixon. Alderman
You're
Goodwin, did you have anything else? Okay, appreciate you answering the question earlier. Alderman Sassy.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, much better. Thank you. So can you tell me when someone pays their property taxes, where does that money go?
Hold on one second. You just need to hand these out. Okay, okay.
Okay.
So, Tamara, do you want to stop what you're doing since we have the hard copy? Can you answer Alderman Sassy's question?
I said, when I pay my property taxes, where does that money go?
In the general fund?
Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah, so in the city's general fund.
So it goes in the general fund. So an argument could be made that we're putting all that money into, it's not being allotted this amount for trash service, this amount for fire initially, right? It's just going into a general fund, and we then pull from that general fund what is needed for those individual services. I'm not going to use parks this year, probably, most likely. So, but I still know I have to pay for them. I'm probably not going to have to call the fire department, but I know it's available to me, but I'm still paying for it. Ultimately, businesses do get a benefit from, another argument could be made, I'll put it that way, that businesses do reap the benefit of trash service because it is for the overall benefit of the city. So, you know how I feel on this. I don't like any portion being separated out. I think it should all go into the general fund, and we pay for our trash service from that general fund. Everyone contributes to it because it's for the betterment of the city. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Alderman Sassy, thank you. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Is it time to make an amendment?
Yeah, I didn't actually make an amendment. I just asked about $100. So, Alderman Peterson, go ahead.
I would like, okay, let me just, first of all, thank you for rolling back the property tax rate. That's unheard of for any city to do that. So we certainly appreciate that for the benefit of the property owners. And last month, I wanted to table this for a year because our trash contract is up in June. And like Alderman Robertson said, it's a perfect storm because on top of that, we don't know what the contract is going to be in a year. And in May of next spring, we get a new city and county property assessment on top of a new trash contract. So my amendment is I would like to lock in the $100 fee for 5 years because that's the length of the contract for trash, and it's really not a reduction if we come back in a year and we increase the 100 or the $156 to 300, 500. It's no savings to our residents. So I'm going to make that amendment that we lock in the, either the 156 or the $100 for 5 years.
Let me ask Tamara a question before we do that, though. Tamara, this is a budget for 1 year. It expires after 1 year. Can we have a part of it extend for 4 more years? Hold on. Go ahead. Lance will try. So
it's a little bit of a gray area because the budget has to be, an individual budget has to be passed each and every year according to the state budget law. Whether or not that fee would apply to that, whether or not that fee would apply to the budget, which has to be passed every single year, it's a little bit of a gray area. So I've seen some fees in our code do something along those lines. We had court costs that did that, they went up 10% every year, whatever the case was, that it provided for future years. But I don't know. I think that maybe it's possible, but and it could always be subject to amendment. I don't know that. I don't know. That's all. I'll just leave it at that.
So even if we passed it tonight, the board could come back and change its mind
Sure.
in 2 weeks or 4 weeks or a couple years?
Yes, budget amendments and special assessments are always subject to amending.
So I sort of feel like his motion is okay if he gets a second.
If it was a tax, I would say no. If it's a special assessment, I say that
Okay?
probably.
Do I need to, hello, is this on? Do I need to repeat my amendment?
Okay. So we're going to set a trash fee for 5 years is what the motion is, at $156.
Yeah, because I don't think it's fair for the board to say this is a reduction in your taxes, and then next year we come back and we wallop you with a big trash increase, and we know it's coming, but, this would minimize it, and we'll just have to cut the budget next year to find the additional funding for this contract. And who knows, Waste Pro might come in and be nice and have another good contract, or there might be competition because everybody loves Hendersonville.
So Alderman Peterson, I sort of misspoke. This isn't the budget. This is a fee.
Right.
Similar to what we just set for court costs.
That's correct.
It's an ordinance in itself.
So I would think that we can do that. It's because it's not part of the budget. And like I said, 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, months from now, the board can come back and change it if we feel like it. So we have a motion and a second to set this fee for the next 5 years. Where do we need to put that
Yeah,
somewhere
because
here?
we have it listed as 251, we can change it to 156 or 100.
Okay, so I'll incorporate that in my amendment, okay? And Mark, Alderman Bergdorf, I think you seconded my amendment, okay? So what we're talking about is an amendment that has 2 parts, that is reducing it to $156 and keeping it $156 for 5 years. Tamara, you're looking at me like you feel like I should stop. Okay. Okay. So Alderman Bergdorf, you're okay including that in our amendment, so we just have one amendment on the floor. That amendment has not been amended. Alderman Peterson, are you okay with that if we incorporate it in our amendment to reduce the cost to $156 and keep that for 5 years?
Yes, and we include the 5-year language.
Okay. Where do we put that?
Oh, good question. Just where it's, where is it?
Okay, so we're gonna go. No, that's wrong. We're looking here, hold on. So change that to,
Amount of 156.
Okay, so if you look on page 17, the second to last paragraph, we're going to change that 251 to 156
For a period of 5 years.
for a period of 5 years. And then, you good with that?
Probably need to change the heading too, I guess.
We also need to change the heading, Lance says. So in both situations, we're adding $156 for a period of 5 years at the very top under the heading in bold and also in the second to the last paragraph. Any questions on the details of that? I know. Any other discussion on that? Okay, so if you go to page 17, okay, if you look at the first paragraph, at the top line, you see $251. The amendment is to reduce that 251 to 156, and after $156, you would add for a period of 5 years. Then go down to section 1, and you see the amount $251. We're changing that as well to $156 for a period of 5 years. Any other discussion? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do, y'all. Alderman Sassy.
Well, just for the sake of this amendment, oh my gosh.
Hold on. There we go. You're good.
This thing does not like me. Does that mean in section 1, we also need to change it to universal system of domestic garbage collection and not include disposal?
I'm looking at Jesse and Tamara. You guys feel? What do you think?
Well, it still is disposal. It's not tipping, but it's disposal.
Okay.
It's collection and disposal, right?
Yeah, having
Just
it limited to
curious.
156 would relegate it to only collection
Oh.
because it won't even cover disposal costs anyway.
I see your point.
You want me to incorporate that in my amendment?
I mean,
Okay.
to be
Okay.
correct, I would say.
Alderman Bergdorf, are you okay incorporating that in our amendment?
Just to remove disposal?
Remove and disposal.
Remove and disposal.
Yes. So, section 1, and it's in the heading?
There's a lot
Oh.
of disposals.
Okay. Hold on. Where do you see it? So first let's look at section 1, eliminate and disposal. Where else do y'all see it?
First,
Section 3. Remove and disposals in the top line. Lance, did you see it somewhere?
there's one in the whereas, but that's,
Okay. So the second whereas. And Alderman Collins, you say section 4? 3. I see 3.
Just say throughout.
Okay, anywhere where it says and disposal, we'll strike that. And Alderman Bergdorf, you're okay incorporating that in the amendment?
Do we, where it notes the Tennessee code annotated, do we adjust that?
Which,
It says whereas Tennessee code annotated 6-2-201
No.
provides, are we authorized to adjust that?
I don't think so. I think that's, do you see what we're talking about, Lance?
yeah, that's just to show the authority that the city.
So we do not line through that there and that? Okay, good.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Dixon.
In all fairness, I'm behind the 156 for a fee. I'm behind the 251. But I cannot vote yes for 5 years to lock us in. Mr. Eckenroth, how much do we pay just for Waste Pro annually? Is it 4 million?
It's less than 4 million,
It's 3 something, 3.8?
around 3.1. Yeah,
Okay,
around 3.1.
okay. And they've shared with us their intention of possibly going up 80% to 100%. That's a lot of money to find next year. So I just can't get behind this amendment, so, in all fairness. Thank you.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Any other discussion? So I'm going to turn on everybody's microphones because we're going to have a roll call. So this is on the amendment. Don't do that? Okay. So you need to be loud, okay? So this is on the amendment. The amendment is to reduce the fee from 251 to 156 for a period of 5 years, and we're striking "and disposal" anywhere it appears except from reference to TCA. So speak loudly, please. Oh, hold on, Alderman Sassy.
Mayor, can we do the
You do electronic? Jason, are we ready for electronic? So here's what we have to do, though, is after electronic, we have to pause for a second so we can put the camera on there, okay? Yes, we'll do electronic. So if you're voting for the amendment, press the green button. If you're voting against it, press the red one, not yet. And again, this is reduce the fee to $156, adding language for a period of 5 years, and striking "and disposal" anywhere where that is, except when it refers to TCA. Jason, are we ready? So yes, so if you're for the amendment, press the green one. Against it, press the red one. So that ties 6-6. However, we need to pause here. Jason, can you bring it up there? And I need you to write this down. Okay. So that fails because it has to get a majority vote. Is there anybody who wishes to change their vote? Okay. So I need to go ahead and read this. So in favor, Alderman Bergdorf, Peterson, Garza, myself, Alderman Goodwin, Collins. Opposed, Alderman Skidmore, Martin, Sassy, Dixon, Waters, and Robertson. So now we're going to go back to the main motion, and Alderman Bergdorf, I'm going to make a motion that we go for $156 for 1 year. Okay, so we have a second for that. It's $156. Okay, so we have a second from Alderman Goodwin, Alderman Dixon. So our motion is 150, and to strike "and disposal" anywhere that it's on there except for when it refers to TCA. So any discussion on that? Okay. It's just be for 1 year. If that fails, we'll come back with something else. So I made the motion, Alderman Dixon seconded, okay? So Jason, you ready? So this is a vote on the amendment. Those in favor, press the green one. Those opposed, press the red one. Who are we missing? We're missing somebody. Alderman Collins. Voting yes, okay. So let's do it again real quick, Jason. Can we do that? Okay. It's just easier if we get them all up there and we can take a picture of it. And then we know. Okay, all in favor, press the green button, please. Those opposed, press the red one. Okay, so that... We're still missing somebody. Missing Alderman Waters? Oh, okay, we're good. Okay, so that passes 7-5. Jason, can you show it to us? Okay, so those in favor, Alderman Bergdorf, Peterson, Garza, myself, Dixon, Goodwin, Collins. Those opposed, Alderman Skidmore, Martin, Sassy, Waters, and Robertson. So now we're back to the main motion. We've amended this by reducing it to $156 and removing "and disposal" in several places. We're back on the main motion. Any other discussion? Yes, Alderman Waters.
I hope it's in order. And Jesse, the one, are you sure Waste Pro is going to increase?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and talk to her.
I thought you were asking somebody else a question. I turned away.
Are you pretty well sure, either one of you, that Waste Pro will go up next year? At June, when the contract expires?
Significantly.
Up a lot.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And what will happen next year is this 156 won't automatically increase. It will come back to the board, and we would decide whether to increase it or not. Alderman Robertson.
Mr. Eckenroth, the Public Works Department asked the staff to do two things with Waste Pro. First, to see if they would extend the contract with an incremental increase for 1 year. And if not, begin working on a timeline that we would be able to proceed on rebidding the project. Can you tell me if Waste Pro is interested in an incremental increase to extend the contract 1 year?
We are in discussions with Waste Pro currently, so we've talked about a 1-year extension per the recommendation from the Public Works Committee, and we're working with Waste Pro right now on a 1-year extension and what that cost would be.
So they've not said no?
Correct.
Okay.
Has it said yes?
No, they have not. And when I say significantly, I mean I would think if a contract even goes up 20%, that's a significant jump. But what Waste Pro and some others have alluded to is that the fees are much higher in other cities.
Chairman Skidmore and the Public Works Committee is trying to find a solution, maybe a Band-Aid for 1 year, to try to avert this train wreck that we may be seeing coming. I just wanted that for the record to let
Yes,
the
sir.
members.
As soon as you
Thank
gave the direction, Public Works has been working on it.
So Alderman Robertson, I'll back you up on that, and Alderman and Chairman Skidmore, that y'all had Waste Pro at a meeting just a couple weeks ago and talked about and asked them all sorts of possibilities and options. And I think it's a very good meeting, and I appreciate y'all doing that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Alderman Waters.
Here, Jess, is there any way that we can, I don't want to say defer this until we find out if they are going to get up off the pot or not? Can we do that, Mayor?
I don't think we're gonna hear back from them before the end of the fiscal year.
We won't?
I don't think, nothing solid. Yeah. And we have to set a budget before then. Okay.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, nobody else has their light on, so all those in favor of, where are we? Okay, we're back on the motion as it was amended, reducing that to $156, and this is first reading of ordinance 2023-11. All those in favor, please press the green button. Sorry, Jason, didn't give you any warning. Those opposed, press the red one. It's 2021-12, I'm sorry, it is. Okay, so that fails, and here's who voted for it. Alderman Bergdorf, Garza, myself, Dixon, Goodwin. Opposed, Alderman Skidmore, Peterson, Martin, Sassy, Collins, Waters, and Robertson. Is there anybody on the prevailing side that would like to bring this back and propose an amendment? If not, we're going to go to the budget right now, and the first thing I'm going to have to tell you is that we have to raise the tax rate. So if there's anybody who voted against it that has a proposed amendment, Alderman Peterson, if you want to try yours again, or a version of yours? So I need to make sure one other thing. Shoot, Jason, can you put it back up there? You can't. Okay, did you get? Okay. So anybody who voted against it that would like to bring that back, otherwise we got to move on. We've got to move on to the budget. No, we don't need that. Alderman Peterson, anybody else on the? We can do that without a motion. Okay. Okay, so we're moving on to first reading of ordinance 2023-11. This is an ordinance of the City of Hendersonville to adopt an annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. I so move. We have a second from Alderman Waters. Okay, there's some housekeeping we have to do from the last time that we met. Jesse, can you explain about our fund balance and where we were at the beginning of the fiscal year and where we are right now?
Yes. So we started this year with an unassigned fund balance of approximately $20 million. The annual comprehensive financial report was distributed to BOMA, and it showed an unassigned fund balance of approximately $20 million. And those are the funds that the city has that aren't encumbered by a purchase order, and they're available for spending at our discretion. We are going through the revenues and expenditures of this year, and the revenues are coming in a little bit higher on almost every category than we anticipated. So sales tax is up a couple $100,000, property tax is up a couple $100,000, and on the flip side, our expenses are coming in a little lower than what we have projected. We haven't been able to fill all the positions at the city. Some of our positions aren't competitive on a salary basis, and some it's just as people cycle out, it takes a while to get some folks back in. So we're down about $1.5 million on our salaries and benefits expenditure. So between the two, and we're doing better on a budget standpoint than we had predicted. We had all kind of predicted that a recession would start earlier in this fiscal year. There's a lot of talk that that's been delayed, so it's going to start. The talk is that that will be coming soon, but we haven't seen much of a recession yet. So as it stands right now, we'll probably add around $4 million this year to our fund balance. Keep in mind, $4 million isn't exactly what it used to be 5 or 6 years ago. We've seen costs escalate on our projects dramatically. We're still kind of in the infancy stages with developing reserves for our city. So it's a good sign. I still think we have a lot of work to do, but very, very positive on revenues, continuing to do a little bit better than we thought and holding expenditures tight. So we'll probably be around 24 million with unassigned fund balance at the end of this fiscal year.
So what we're looking at is a surplus of about $4 million in the current fiscal year. So we had a budget. We didn't spend as much as we thought we would, and we had revenues come in better. So we're looking at a surplus of about $4 million. That's why I'm okay having the use of the previous year's money in next year's budget, and this is why. We have a lot of projects that we didn't finish this year. We shouldn't abandon those projects. We should use the money this year to finish those projects next year. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. So that's why our non-reoccurring budget, our big ticket budget, that's why that's in the red. It's because we didn't finish there's several projects we didn't finish this year. We're not just going to give up on those. Let's take the money that we had this current fiscal year, let's finish those projects by dedicating that money in the next fiscal year. So I don't have a problem with that. Jesse also hit on something about inflation. Found out last week inflation is hitting us hard on repaving. I don't want to deal with this tonight, but I do want to make you all aware of something. That the lowest bid for our paving budget came in. Do we have 3? Okay, so we had 2 bids, which is double what we typically have. We had 2 bids last week that came in for our annual paving budget. The lowest one is going to increase our paving cost by 35%. So $3.9 million that we were planning to spend, that's in this budget, it's only going to pave about 2/3 of the roads that we had anticipated. So what I'm going to ask is that our Public Works Committee look at the list of roads, look at the budget, look at all sorts of possibilities, and come back to us at the next reading. I don't really want to. I think it's too difficult to deal with it right now, and I think our Public Works Committee should make some sort of recommendation, or at least consider different recommendations and vet those recommendations. So so that's something we're going to deal with in 2 weeks. We also need to acknowledge that we had an amendment 2 weeks ago that is in the budget right now. So it's not in the paperwork, but we had an amendment 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to ask Annette to read that.
Sassy moved, Dixon seconded a motion to amend ordinance 2023-11 by removing the Parks Board, Golf Commission, and Board of Zoning Appeals from the boards/committees to receive pay and to remove the 6% COLA for the aldermen.
So that passed. We don't need to deal with that today unless somebody on the prevailing side wants to change it, or anybody wants to change it. But so that's already passed. We've removed that from the budget, but we still have not passed first reading. We had some very good conversations in the workshop, very good conversations in the Finance Committee, and as I said in the workshop, I appreciate the conversations very much because it gave me some guidance and gave me some ideas of some ways that we can address this. One of the first things that I want to suggest we do is that we want to amend the amount we spend on beautiful Hendersonville and the Arts Council, and this is why. Those used to be independent of the city, and they had some money in the bank. When we brought them in, we need to make sure that they can carry that money over. And Jesse, can you explain this a little bit better? And this is going to be an amendment that I propose in just a second.
Yeah, that was an excellent explanation. The way our budget works is say, for example, finance department doesn't spend all their money this fiscal year. They don't get to carry their balance over next year. But for these committees who used to have a bank account, that's how they used to operate. And so now they're asking, do I have to spend all the money this year or can I use some of it next year? So if the budget ordinance allows beautiful Hendersonville and the Arts Council to carry their unused so whatever they didn't spend this year can be added to what they had budgeted next year. So if they want to do a larger purchase, maybe in 3 months from now, rather than a small purchase now and a small purchase 3 months from now, that's what that amendment would allow them to do.
Otherwise, we're telling them to go spend all the money right now.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to make that motion. And a second from Alderman Collins. Any discussion on specific to that, to allowing beautiful Hendersonville and Arts Council to carry over? Alderman Dixon? No. Okay. Oh, thank you. Alderman Peterson?
Not on that.
Okay. I need you to press your button again. Sorry. Alderman Robertson on this? Yeah. How much, Jesse?
I think it's about $10,000 approximately. It's a small amount between the two committees. And it was what's in their bank account. So we recently passed legislation that we took beautiful Hendersonville under the umbrella of the city. So we took their bank account that was under beautiful Hendersonville and we incorporated it into the city. I think about $7,000 was in there. I think the Arts Council is around $3,000 for this year. That they're gonna $6,000 that they have left over. So it'd be about $7,000 for beautiful Hendersonville and $6,000. And if they can spend between now and the end of the year, but we're saying, hey, whatever is left, that would add to the budget that we had in place for next year.
So this is adding to the budget, adding $10,000 approximately to the budget.
Yes, sir. So it wouldn't be spent in this year's budget. If it wouldn't be spent in this year's budget, it could be spent in next year's budget.
Okay. Thank you.
If we don't pass this, they're probably going to go out and spend the money in the next couple weeks. Okay. So Alderman Collins on this. Go ahead.
Just that by allowing the two committees to retain their funds from fiscal year to fiscal year, it allows them to save for larger goals. And, I mean, that's a reasonable thing that they would want to do if they want to make a contribution that's beyond their one-year allocation. So I support it for sure.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Anybody else? Who I made a motion. Who seconded it? Alderman Collins, thank you. Any other discussion on this amendment? All those in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Hold it. Alderman Sassy? Anybody else? Okay. So that passes with majority vote. So next I need to, from the conversations in Finance Committee and in the workshop, I want to make an amendment of a couple items that seem to have a consensus of, if certainly not possibly unanimity, that we're going to adjust 4 revenue items. And we've talked about these in both of those committees. I want to increase our revenue for business tax by $75,000, increase our investment earnings revenue by $250,000, increase park and rec fees by $25,000, and increase court costs by $120,000. I hope somebody will second that. And we have a second from Alderman Dixon. Jesse, can you explain why we think that that is reasonable?
Yes, Mayor Clary. So for business tax, since we are adopting our budget later in the fiscal year, we were able to run analysis to see how much business tax we're bringing in this year. We budgeted on the more conservative side, so it's looking like we have the room to adjust that up $75,000. Investment earnings, as you know, we've started a new investment policy, and the bank that we bank with made a deal for us to invest some funds with them that were otherwise sitting idle. So taking advantage of that is going to be another $250,000 a year for investment earnings for us. Park and rec fees continue to come in strong, and so we're just being a little less conservative with our revenue there. And then the board recently approved an increase in court costs, so this is to reflect the increase in court costs. That's it. Thank you.
So, Alderman Sassy.
Yeah, are you asking to implement all of the option 1 that was proposed to us, or just the revenue from that?
Those are the option 1 revenues, less the trash fee.
My other amendment is coming in just a second.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Robertson.
only revenue enhancements that you're proposing? And of course, these are the same thing the Finance Committee proposed. Are these the only revenue enhancements that you're proposing?
Right now, yes.
Okay.
And this is no surprise to anybody, as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, we know what the end of the fiscal year is more likely to look like. So, and as we get closer to the beginning of the next fiscal year, we know more about the beginning of the fiscal year. So there might be some other ones, but these are the ones that we feel comfortable with right now.
So we had first reading tonight on the hotel motel tax increase. So at the second reading, will there be an adjustment in the revenue projections for that will help us $160,000?
Good question.
It makes a lot of sense since it was a unanimous decision today to include that in the second reading.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, so 160 approximately? Okay, appreciate that. Any other discussion on this amendment? Alderman Dixon?
I'll jump in here and say that our Finance Committee did recommend all of your amendment in our passing the budget forward without a fee.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Dixon. Alderman Martin?
Yes, there was a discussion last week about raising the permit fees. Is that still kind of in its infancy, or do we have an estimate on what that might net?
Planning is going through an analysis of their fees, and there are funds in the budget to do an impact fee study. It would take a couple of months to get those together, so we will likely see those either at mid-year or for next year's budget as we go through the analysis this year.
Alderman Martin, thank you. Any other discussion? So let me read what the amendment is again. It's to adjust our revenues by adding and all these are increases, $75,000 increase in business tax, $250,000 increase in investment earnings, $25,000 for parks and rec fees increase, and $120,000 increase for court costs. Alderman Sassy.
I just wanted to verify that we're still talking about a tax rate of .9187, is that correct?
So what's in the budget? No, in the budget is 0.7.
That's correct. So the budget does not have the property tax rate at 9187. What's in the budget was a property tax rate that was much lower because of the trash fee was supplementing it. So there would likely be a motion this evening to revert back to the 9187 tax rate and remove the trash fee from the budget.
Okay. Is there a reason why that's not part of this amendment?
That wasn't discussed, didn't seem to be a consensus or a majority view in the Finance Committee or the workshop on that.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. So right now, the proposed budget is 0.75. Right?
Yeah, the rate was, so we had a $251 fee, trash fee, but with a reduced property tax rate at 0.7580.
Okay, and of course, we now have a deficit of an additional 3.8.
Yeah.
We can get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. Okay, so we've got an amendment to increase the revenues in those four areas. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Okay, now I've got an amendment to shift some expenditures that also came from conversations and discussions from the Finance Committee and from the workshop that we had. First one is we are going to move staff costs from our park staff to the hotel motel fund of $80,371. We're going to spend $58,000 from the drug fund instead of the general fund to buy an additional police department vehicle. We're going to move $280,000 in paving from the general fund to State Street Aid. I'm sorry, just those three. It's just those three right there. So, do I have a second? Okay, second from Alderman Sassy. So again, it's $80,000 shift. So we're taking a position out of being funded by the general fund in parks and funding it through hotel motel. We are paying for a police department vehicle instead of the general fund. We're going to pay with that in the drug fund of $58,000, and we're moving $280,000 worth of paving from the general fund to State Street Aid. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you. This is not about the amendment, but I was wondering about option 3 that the Finance Committee proposed. Have we discussed that yet?
So most of this is coming from option 3. Just broke it down a little bit differently than what the Finance Committee, and Alderman Dixon has asked to speak pretty soon when I finish some of these housekeeping items.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Any discussion on those 4 shifts or reductions in expenditures? Any clarification? There are 3 of them. I said 4 to begin with, and I changed it to 3. Sorry about that. So who's the second? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Okay. Next, Alderman Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, in our Finance Committee, we did select one of the 3 options, and that was option 3, which included everything in option 1, okay? But it also, you know, we reduced our tax rate to be able to include a fee that would be a trash fund, right? A new fund. So in my mind, there's no need to change our tax fee. It should revert back in this budget to where it is today. And that's my opinion. And for the Finance Committee to make an amendment, I feel like it's null at this point because we've already voted on amendments that affect our amendment. So I guess we just need to talk about each one of those individually. Okay? That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Dixon. Any other discussion? So, Jesse, Tamara, where are we right now with the deficit, since we don't have the revenue from the trash fee? There we go. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Tamara.
So this would assume a reversion back to the current property tax rate. I do not have a worksheet set up with a $251 and 0.7580. Is that how you'd like to see it?
That's helpful. And the current property tax rate is 0.918.
87, correct.
So I'll entertain a motion to increase the property tax rate to 0.9187. We have a motion from Alderman Sassy, a second from Alderman Collins. Jesse, I cut you off a little bit.
No, sir, you're good.
Okay. Alderman Sassy.
I just want to make sure everyone knows this is not an increase in property taxes. This is keeping property taxes exactly where it is right now. That's all.
Thank you, Alderman Sassy. Alderman Collins? Okay. Any other, Alderman Bergdorf?
That's true, yes, it is keeping it exactly the same as it was, but we had the opportunity a few minutes ago to lower the tax rate in the city of Hendersonville, which was an unheard of option. I still feel like it was a good choice to try and offer that option to our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bergdorf. Any other discussion? So we're going to do this electronically, Jason? Okay. So all those in favor of a tax rate of 0.9187, that's an amendment to the proposed budget, which had 0.7580. All those in favor of 0.9187 in this amendment, please press the green button. Are you ready for us, Jason? Those opposed, press the red one. And leave it up there for just a second. That's right, there's 12 of us. Okay, can you show it to us, Jason? Okay, so those in favor, Alderman Skidmore, Martin, Sassy, Garza, Dixon, Goodwin, Collins, Waters, and Robertson. Those opposed, Alderman Bergdorf, Peterson, and myself. Okay, so we have that amendment with a couple other amendments. Now we're back on the main motion. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Annette. Now we're back on the main motion with the amendments that we've already passed and the adoption of our budget. Any other discussion? Alderman Sassy.
So we still have not funded trash, is that correct? So we still need to add that in?
No, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so with the tax rate reverting, we would pay trash from the general fund. So under the mayor's proposal, we had trash fund separately.
So because the previous amendment failed, trash is now refunded from the general fund, is that correct?
That's where it would pay for, because we have
Or
zero.
previous ordinance.
There would be
Yes.
$0 in the trash fund now, so we will likely, with the board's approval, if the motion would include for finance staff to remove the trash fund or everything that's related to that trash fund in the tax rate, and we could include that in the second reading for Belma.
We'll clean that up in 2 weeks.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sassy. Alderman Robertson.
Yeah, Mr. Eckenroth or Tamara, put on the screen then where we are as far as the operating budget.
Yeah, if you'd scroll to the top, Jason, okay. Can you hide some of those cells? Because we haven't done that many amendments. If you can hide like 12 through 14, just the blank ones, not just the blank ones. We're not going to hide the ones with numbers in them. So we created this so we can track live and see what the operating budget is for the city. So those are recurring expenses and recurring revenues. If you could scroll down a little bit, Jason, so you can see the, total operating surplus, that's on line 35. Okay, so right now it's at 582,000
Okay,
of a surplus for the operating budget.
for the operating budget, I've got a couple of general questions to ask you, and I told you I was going to ask you these questions, so you're not surprised. In your opinion, and in the opinion of the comptroller, by reviewing the information that he provides for budgeting, are our reserves adequate at this level? For an organization, for a government entity with the kinds of expenses that we have, do we have sufficient reserves?
So the comptroller recommends a minimum unassigned fund balance. We do meet that. Because what the comptroller recommends is roughly 2 months of operating expenses held in an unassigned fund balance. We do meet that.
Say that again.
We do meet the comptroller's recommendation for our unassigned fund balance. What we can think of as working cash or working capital, which is equivalent to 2 months of our operating budget.
Okay. So we're okay on the reserves with this budget.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding. When I'm talking, we've also adopted a fund balance policy for a prudent reserve and an infrastructure reserve.
Yes.
And a
public safety as well.
Yeah, and the comptroller's recommendation is separate from those reserves. So are you talking about the totality of both, or one of the other?
I'm talking about the totality.
I don't know if the comptroller has a specific recommendation on the reserve. So our infrastructure reserve, our rainy day reserve, and our public safety reserve. I think we would all like to see those reserves built up drastically. We have an infrastructure reserve that has about $3 million. We're looking at projects that are all 10, 12, 15, $30 million. So I think if we were to ask, would we rather have more in those reserves? Absolutely. Our rainy day reserve is $3 million as well, so that's a very small portion of our operating budget. So I think the general consensus would be that everyone would like to have, that I've spoken with, yes, everyone would like to have more reserves.
So I'd like for you to engage in what I refer to as over the horizon analysis. And what that is I know that you don't have a crystal ball, but you and the mayor can see expenses down the road. A good chess player always considers 2 or 3 moves ahead. So what do you think 2025 looks like? I know we're just trying to get through 24, but I think we need to have a longer horizon perspective as well. So how are we going to look next year in your opinion?
You know, I've shared with the board several times, every contract that comes up, they don't renew on the existing terms that they have. We just went out to bid. We received our paving bid at roughly a 35% increase. Our garbage is expected to go up over the next few years, probably more than 35% over the course of several years. We've seen our sales tax do well, but we haven't seen 35% gains on our revenues. Property tax stays pretty flat because the rate stays flat, so that doesn't really keep pace with inflation. Sales tax has kept pace with inflation, even beat inflation. We see sales tax now ticking back, where we were getting 15, 16%, 12%. Our last, I think our last sales tax was 8%. And the timing for the recession seems to be getting pushed back. So these cost increases that we see are going to continue to hit the city. I mean, we've talked about, COLAs for city employees to retain them. We've talked about all these contracts that keep increasing. So we haven't seen a reduction in fees anywhere, and it looks as though those increases are going to continue to come on board. We're seeing a little bit of new commercial activity. Costco should help a little bit, but it still seems like these contracts and our projects are just, the numbers are coming in very high and higher than we'd expect to see them. We weren't anticipating 35% on paving.
Yeah, and on the pay study that was done, I appreciate the mayor trying to get our police department staff up to market level. Will this budget do that in the police? Because that was where they were like, what, 10, is it 10% below market level?
10.7% below.
10.7 below. Will what we're doing on pay, especially in the lower ranks of PD, get us to
It will probably
market?
get us really close to market.
Close.
Because that was before most cities had performed a COLA.
Okay.
So even though we're going to do a COLA, most of those cities are going to do a COLA as well. So maybe that number, if we don't consider our, after they do their COLAs, would jump to 13 or 14% below market. So the proposal now gets PD up 11% from a sergeant down.
And Mayor, I would like to say that the Capital Projects Committee, and I'll give this in the report, is going to meet later this month, and it's very likely, based on that meeting and based on what I understand from the GNRC possible funding of Exit 8, that I may bring forward an amendment to add $1.1 million back into Exit 8 so that we can try to be at least qualified to receive funding from GNRC. Just give the board a heads up on that. Your amendment doesn't include that, does it?
So right now, it's funded at 4.9.
Okay,
It's funded at 4.9 right now, and we'll get you a report. I'm glad you reminded me of that.
okay.
So, okay, appreciate that. Okay. Any other discussion on the budget? So we have, we on the main motion? Okay. So, I'm lost, I'm sorry. Did we vote on the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, so we voted on the amendment, and that passed. And the amendment was to go up to .9187. Okay, so now we passed that amendment to go back up to .9187. Now we're back on the main motion of the budget. Alderman Robertson, anything else?
No.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we'll do it electronically. All those in favor of, this is ordinance 2023-11. We've had several amendments. Press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. And Jason, hold it up there for a few minutes. We're voting on the budget, on the main motion of the budget. Mm-hmm. So that passes 10-2. Opposed, Alderman Bergdorf and Alderman Skidmore. In favor, Alderman Peterson, Martin, Sassy, Garza, myself. Alderman Dixon, Goodwin, Collins, Waters, and Robertson. And hold on one second, Jason, if you can keep it up there. Okay, you good? Oh, sorry. Okay, so that passes with majority vote. Now we're under, entertain a motion to take a 5-minute break. Okay, Alderman Dixon makes a motion to take a 5-minute break. Alderman Goodwin seconds. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Thank you all. Jason, you ready? Okay, we're back on, y'all. So next on our agenda is Resolution 2023-23. This is a resolution authorizing the city's Department of Parks and Recreation to apply for a State of Tennessee Department of Intellectual and Development Disabilities grant for the construction of an all-inclusive playground at Sanders Ferry Park. Alderman Peterson. Motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Alderman Peterson. We have a second from Alderman Waters. Any discussion? Alderman Peterson?
Is Director Gilly here?
He has been waiting for this moment for about 2 hours.
We just received this application or information that this grant was available in just the last couple days, and Director Gilly can give us more information on it.
Thank you. Thank you to the General Committee for supporting this and letting us bring it there instead of Public Works. We did only receive notification of this grant about a week and a half ago and kind of moved quickly to get this legislation in front of you. It is a fully reimbursable grant up to $500,000, which means we would try to construct a play space that would be at $500,000. If we were to do something bigger than that, we would probably go to the community and try to raise funds to go above that. But the city's portion would be $500,000 reimbursable through the State Department of Intellectual Disabilities, I think is the wording on the grant.
So it would be something similar to Mary's Magical Place?
In all-inclusivity, yes. In size, absolutely not. It would be, I think, about a third of the size of Mary's Place. You got to remember Mary's Place cost approximately $1.5 million in 2017. So you can imagine what the construction price today would be on a playground like that.
But this grant is, it's refundable? We put the money up and then the state reimburses us?
That is correct.
Okay. All right.
Alderman Peterson, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Director.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, thank you. It sounds like a really good deal that we need to really pursue, but I do want to ask a couple of questions about the inclusiveness that's in the ordinance. I know we've had some discussion among in the city about being inclusive. What if it's not inclusive? Is it going to bother the having the grant done?
Absolutely.
Okay, it will?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I was afraid of that. Okay, well, thank you. I do still support it. I was hoping that it didn't, but then I started really thinking about it, and I thought that might be part of the grant on why of that word. It's a big word,
Yes, sir.
for a grant.
It is.
And it's very important. But well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I hope that answers the board's question with regard to that issue. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. Any other Alderman Robertson.
Grant require the location specificity.
The way the resolution is written and the way we will write the application, that will require it to be located at Sanders Ferry Park.
Okay, and we selected Sanders Ferry Park for
2 reasons. Those are some of our oldest playgrounds that need to be renovated in the first place. And a couple of years ago, during budget workshop time, Alderman Collins and then Alderman Edwards had us do a little exercise and study there and kind of a schematic design. And this application is going to require all that to be done in the next 6 days. So we have some work already done for us, and somewhat pricing of different pieces already done for us if we put it at that location.
and we have restrooms there, correct?
Correct, but we would have to do some work outside of the grant to probably make those old restrooms ADA accessible at Sanders Ferry.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor of Resolution 2023-23, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we're on to other agenda items. These have been grouped. There's 3 of them. There's the vote on the appointment of Diane Stocker to the Arts Council, the reappointment of Jim Flockenseer to the Deer Herd Committee, and the reappointment of Colin Zimmerman to the Deer Herd Committee. I need a motion. We have a motion from Alderman Robertson and a second from Alderman Dixon. Any discussion? All those in favor of these 3 appointments, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we're on to brief committee reports. General Committee, Chairman Peterson. Chairman Peterson, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. What are we doing?
I moved quickly, I'm sorry. We finished all the things on the first page, now we're on the back page. General committee report.
Did we have the person from BZA that we were going to appoint?
So we're not going to take action on that tonight, we're going to take action on
Oh,
that.
okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I am back on track. Mayor, yes, General Committee met today, and I have asked Jason if he could give the report, because we had a couple resolutions, and I always like to get input back from the board. So if I may, I would like Jason Gallo to give the General Committee report tonight.
Jason? Would you want to give the general, we should give him that option. Go ahead, thank you, Jason.
We spoke earlier, thank you.
Yeah, it's not a problem. So tonight, we discussed two things. One was a resolution on accepting the classification list and the pay tables. And so those will be coming before BOMA on your next meeting. Those are things that we have done regularly. The classification list has come before BOMA every year. This year, we've paired together the wage table that includes the COLA. So that'll be part of the packet so you can see the adjustments. And as you're looking at a position to determine what is it paid, you can have that reference there. So that was one that was discussed, and it was agreed to move forward to BOMA. The other one you've already discussed here, which was the resolution 2323 for the parks to apply for the grant. So that was done. Then we had two other discussion items. One was a code of conduct that was somewhat tabled. The mayor had asked for ideas to be sent to him for BOMA code of conduct. And then the other one was the upcoming legislation regarding citizen comments that will go forward for all of the different committees. And so those are the two items of discussion. We ended about 20 minutes later. That's about it.
Any questions for Chairman Peterson? Jason, thank you. Chairman Peterson, thank you. Chairman Goodwin, Public Safety.
We had a brief meeting tonight. We will be sending a couple of new ordinances to the board. One will be regulating the use of tobacco and vapor products, sending it to the board with a positive recommendation. We also are sending to the, did a resolution coming to the board for the mayor to enter an agreement with the Safe Haven baby boxes. That was real interesting. And then we had a discussion with the fire department regarding the calls that they take outside of the city. We just began that discussion, haven't come up with any solutions, but started that discussion, and that was it.
Chairman Goodwin, thank you. Planning Commission, Alderman Martin.
Good evening. We had a great meeting. I'm going to run over the planning director's comments first, like I usually do. First and foremost, Lauren Beery, who's instrumental in the Planning Commission, is leaving, unfortunately. So we wish her well. She was amazing with us. There's a future land use and planning meeting that's going to be held for the Stop 30 plan on Tuesday, June 20th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. Wanted to share that with you guys. And also the software that we use, the InterGov solutions, we've been trying, the city's been kind of tinkering with it, and they're fully invested. So we're going to start using that. And we're going to pair that with an opportunity to look at our the fees that we charge for our permits, look at the other cities, see what they charge, and make sure that we're comparable. And so we'll package all that up together. And then, well, we already talked about the state law with public hearings and comments. For the projects, there's a project called the Triangle, which was simply a request to add minor auto service and repair to that property as a permitted use. The owner couldn't make it. We kind of toyed around with how it could work with the drive and the roll-up doors and stuff, and we just didn't have enough information. So in fairness to the applicant and to the owner, we pushed it back a month to give them a chance to appear and talk through it. The other projects was Floor and Decor. They're going to open up, or wanting to open up on Maple Drive North. This project was a little unique because they didn't want to have a lot of parking. That's part of their business model. So they had a couple of requests for that we granted, but we did not grant the parking count. We want to be sure that, if they move on in 10 years, that we're not stuck with a building that doesn't have enough parking for other tenants. So that's why we did that. The last project was Jackson Townhomes. This was a project where we had some issues with some stairs. They didn't meet code, so we're going to let them take a look at it and come back with some solutions, and we'll see if we can't help the applicant. But there was an issue with the applicant not having an architect, and I've talked to Keith Free about maybe adding some language in our municipal code so that those types of projects, it's not just a residence, but if it's multifamily and it's got several residents, to go ahead and require that a licensed architect and engineer be required for the plan and permit process. And Tailgate, they came back with a much more minimal mural. I think we all liked it. It was a lot more subdued, so that was approved. Did I miss anything? All right, thanks, guys.
Alderman Martin, thank you. Chairman Robertson, Capital Projects Committee.
Thank you, Mayor, and I've been told not to touch this mic, so I'll be looking up at it. So as I mentioned earlier, June the 26th at 5:30, there will be a short Capital Projects Committee meeting. We will be discussing Exit 8 funding. We have the possibility of seeking funding from GNRC. There are some requirements that we have to do, so we will be discussing that. So that's some good news. And of course, right after that meeting, I think the county commission is meeting on the possibility of helping the city with a small funding amount on that project. So I plan to go with you to the county for that meeting. And we're very hopeful because this is an important project, not only to the city, but to the county and to the state. It's a very important project. So just a couple of updates. Memorial Park LED light project is almost complete. This is good because this will provide us another field for team sports. And so they are currently installing electricity. Everything's gone smooth and on budget so far. The LPRF grant for turf, soccer, and rugby facilities, all of the designs have been approved by the city, and we're just waiting for TDEC for their approval. We're hopeful that the bids will be able to go out on these two projects soon. Parks is working hard on that because that'll be a huge asset to our citizens. Next is the pickleball. 50% of the designs have been completed, and they're under staff review now, and construction is supposedly or hopefully to start at the end of summer. I'm hoping we can move that up to the middle of summer. Rugby restrooms, the bid went out for the rugby restrooms. You know, that's a prefab bathroom, but we still have to have a contractor install the prefab. And the first bids came in, and they were way over anything that we expected. So they have gone out, or they're going to go out for a second round of bids. Hopefully we can get a more reasonable bid to put the restrooms together. Finally, but not least, the fire hall at number 7 is going well. There are no delays expected unless there are some supply chain issues. The electricity is in the process of being installed there, And so we're excited about the progress and the completion of that. And when it is completed, we'll have a big shindig, because that'll be a great asset to citizens north of 386, all the citizens. But that's my report, Mayor.
And Chairman Robertson, thank you. Jesse, CEO report.
I'll keep my comments brief. My report's on page 121 to 128. If you look at page 126, there's a slew of upcoming events that are filtering through the Parks Department. June 20th is the Hendersonville Hometown Jam. And you can get tickets at hendersonvilljam.com. It's going to be a great event, so go ahead and look at getting tickets for that. Page 127 has some projects. Alderman Robertson alluded to Fire Hall number 7, but we're kind of tracking some projects over there from an expense standpoint. Sanders Ferry Greenway is looking really great. You can walk on the trail and start to actually see where they put the pylons in the water now. So it's very exciting to see the progress being made over there. And then the last item is you might see our limb pickup trucks out earlier and later and on the weekends right now. We're still working through the March windstorms and the winter freezes that have caused so many plants and shrubs to die. So you might see those guys out over the weekends and earlier and later than typical as they're working overtime to try and clean up just the heavy amount of brush that we have right now. But if you have any problems or complaints, you can go on the city's website. Under the Public Works, there is a link where you can email for limb pickup. There's maps on there as well showing where they're at in their route, but they are working overtime to try and clean up everything around the city. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Hold on. Alderman Skidmore, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I'm really glad you ended with that, because that was one of my concerns. I'm getting like massive calls from all over the city about tree limb service pickup. And I'm driving into my area, which is both Walton Ferry, Saunders Ferry Peninsula, and it's like the Ukraine over there. It's that bad. I'm not joking. It's terrible. I've had limbs that were green, that were brown, and now they're red. And so I appreciate them working a little bit, over that what needs to be, because this is the longest I've ever seen, and it really needs to be cleaned up, especially the Saunders Ferry Road area. It's just really bad.
Yeah, we agree. With March windstorms and the winter freeze that's happening, the amount of brush that has been put out is extremely high compared to what's in the past.
And that's what I've been telling people, just to give us patience, and then we'll get back on a real good schedule. But because of the weather that we've had, I've asked them just to keep having patience, and their patience are thin. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. Alderman Sassy, a question for Jesse.
Yes, Jesse, you probably know what my question is, don't you? So Route C has been paused or helping out other routes for a couple weeks now. So I'm getting questions almost every single day. Do you know when C is going to start back up on their regular route again?
We hope to be started back on a regular route basis in about 2 weeks. There are some areas, so some of the more mature landscaped areas, some of the older parts of town where there's bigger trees and more shrubs. You go into some of the newer subdivisions and there's not as many. Like in the subdivision island, it's rather new, so there's not a lot of leaves and limbs out. I think the area that Mr. Bergdorf and Mr. Skidmore are talking about, there's a lot of mature landscaping over there, so the debris is very heavy in those areas. I think some of our guys are even starting at 5 a.m. in the morning, staying late, working the weekends to get caught up on it. So as soon as possible, what I think in about 2 weeks we'll be caught up to be more on a regular routine with our schedule.
Yeah. Well, our citizens are patient, and they're just waiting. I just wanted to have some information to share with them. Thank you.
Alderman Sassy, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Two things. It's my understanding that there's going to be a marathon this weekend, and several exits on 386 are going to be shut down for a while. Is that true?
Yes, there's the Old Hickory, I think triathlon is what it's called. And KCRPIO is working on a public information release for that event that will probably go out tomorrow.
Good, because I've had someone from Lawson Point ask that they had heard that they were going to be shut, so
Yeah, she started working on her press release today.
good. And I'm sure our PD and fire department know about that and are prepared.
Yeah, PD will be monitoring out on the site.
Okay. Second question, and I think Alderman Goodman mentioned this, but last month I asked that in your report, there be some kind of statistic to show how many times that we're responding on a mutual aid into the county, just so that I can have kind of a ballpark figure of how much we're serving the county residents. So is that what you're working on? Some kind of, oh, you already have it? Oh.
Chief Bush got that for us.
Okay. So maybe if we could just have a little pie chart or something in your report to show this month we had 20 responses, or 15 responses.
Yes, sir.
Would help. It helped me understand the volume of work that we're going into the county to lend aid. Thank you. That's all.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor and Jesse. Did we put a clock in the budget?
Nobody knows what you're talking about other than the 13 of us.
There's a clock that's on this wall, and we watch that clock too much. I feel like I'm still in school, but it's gone, and it's driving us nuts. Oh, Jason's got it. Anyway, I want to take a second, and I want to thank the city, the parks, Rock Castle, the police, everybody involved in the Symphony by the Lake. It was an amazing event, and people are still commenting on it. We got national exposure, national. Channel 5 News mentioned it that night, so it's just a great event for the city, and thank everybody that was involved in that. Thank you.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Alderman Collins.
I love that Alderman Peterson was so positive, but I'm going to be a little negative. I'm getting complaints a lot about limb pickup as well. And can you review for us when the limb dump is open to the public?
The limb dump is open on Saturdays.
Every Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If it's a city holiday, it won't be. But that's very rare that it happens on a holiday.
Okay.
But yes, Saturdays it's open. I believe it's 7 to 3 that it's open. And the hours, I believe, are on the city's website too. Is it 7 to 3? 7 to 3 is when the limb dump is open, and that's for free. Is it 151 Free Hill? 503 Forest Retreat?
I get those mixed up too.
If you go with 386.
501.
So we think it's 501 Forest Retreat. Okay.
Yeah, it's on the city website too. If you go in there and you click in limb retreat.
And we don't have the extreme trees and big limbs, but we have a lot of landscaping that's being ripped out, and a lot that has less than half of it has been ripped out. It's still dead in people's yards. So I expect this to be an issue for quite a while all of that landscaping gets ripped out. So I'm concerned but optimistic, and we'll see how it goes. We might need some outside support before we get through all of the vegetation that died with the deep freeze.
Yeah, recently we've talked about outside support, the time that it would take to go out with a public bid and award a contract. We're going to be really close at that point to being caught up to where we on our normal route. So we're going to continue to assess that. But this is 2 events back to back that have made this season really tough. We've even talked about, do we staff at a higher level and hire guys now, but then we have them at all times when we don't always have this much limb pickup, but we'd have to be paying for staff to be here at all times if we hired extra. So we're going to continue to assess that, look at overtime for the guys going out on the routes, and just try to get through the next couple weeks the best we can.
I also want to borrow Alderman Sassy's patient constituents. I don't have any.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Waters, questions for our CO?
What time is it, Jess?
It's Boma 30.
8:30? Good. She stole my thunder on the landfill, which is, it is open. Can you look sometime tomorrow on that computer of yours, and there's a map showing C, A, B, and I didn't hear Alderman Sasser what he was asking, because he and I are in C, I think. Can you look and let me know when they're gonna get over into C3 and 4? Or do you have it before you now?
I will get it to you tomorrow.
After C1.
C1?
After C1.
Well,
They're in B right now.
if my constituents don't shoot me before tomorrow, I appreciate it.
Alderman Waters, thank you. Alderman Garza, question for our CO.
Not a question, but it might help if you're having conversations about limb pickup. That was a 500-year freeze. It wasn't like a normal season when the temperature dropped over 50 degrees in one day. And a lot of these things being torn out, like the landscaping, most of it's really not dead. It's just got to be cut off at the ground, but many people don't know that, so they're digging up plants. But like you said, you can't staff for a 500-year freeze every year. I mean, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and on top of that, people still have limbs that they're bringing out from the March windstorm that maybe they've had in their backyard for a while. So both of those items on top of each other are leaving large piles in a lot of people's yards.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Jesse, thank you. Alderman Dixon. We have a motion to adjourn, a second from Alderman Garza. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Thank you all. Y'all have a good night. Leave your binders here, please.